You're listening to a Mango Languages podcast. Language teaching is hard, but there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic. That's why we created this show, Teaching Languages Today, a podcast for world language educators about what's working and what's not. Listen in for the problems fellow teachers are facing, learn what solutions they found, and get some much-needed self-care reminders of why you fell in love with teaching in the first place. Hi, I'm Emily, your host for the show. In each episode, I'll be taking you on a journey into seeing world language ed through a new lens by sitting down with an all-star lineup of teachers, administrators, parents, and students. It's my hope that the stories you hear in this show will get you thinking and feeling different about what you do in the classroom. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, and welcome back to Teaching Languages Today. I'm your guide, Emily. In today's episode, we're talking about the Seal of Biliteracy. This is kind of a big deal, but interestingly, not a ton of people know about it still, which is in part why we're doing this very episode. Actually, I'd love for you to let me know if you've ever heard of the Seal of Biliteracy prior to listening to this episode. When I set out to do this episode, I really had three main questions to tackle. What is the Seal of Biliteracy? Why would a school and its students want it? And how do schools get set up for it? We got all those questions answered and then some, so buckle up. It's a good listen. Now, this is a pretty special episode because you're going to get to hear from two people with different perspectives and experiences with the Seal of Biliteracy. As you know, usually each episode of Teaching Languages Today centers around one guest. But this time, I felt like to do the story justice, we really needed a couple different perspectives. So we got Arthur, Chou, and Nicole Rybak. And for those of you who don't know them, let me give you just a little overview. So Arthur is a social entrepreneur. He advocates for bilingual language education and works to promote education equity for English language learners. As you learn more about in the episode, Arthur was integral to the origin story of the Seal of Biliteracy. He's the founder and managing director for Academic Learning Company, which operates the Seal of Biliteracy's website. And he's personally helped more than 30 states establish their Seal of Biliteracy programs. He's a multilingual native of Taiwan, now living in the West Coast, US. And some facts about Arthur that I just can't help but share. He is a publisher at Velasquez Press, which published the oldest and largest Spanish and English dictionary based in the US. He speaks not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 languages, and he's traveled to all 50 US states and over 50 countries. Oh, and he's also really funny. Part of me resents him for being so cool, which means I still have some personal growth to work on, but, it's okay. I'm not a perfect person. But in all seriousness, Arthur is just wonderful, and you can think of him as like the man behind the curtain of the Seal of Biliteracy. Now, who is our second guest? Nicole Rybak. Nicole is a rock star master's student at Georgetown University studying language and communication, and she has a really different story from Arthur. She is a real-life student who earned her Seal of Biliteracy in her home state of Illinois. She earned the Seal of Biliteracy during her senior year of high school for her proficiency in, get this, 4 languages, which you'll hear about later in the episode. Well, sneak peek, one of them is Polish, and I made her teach me some Polish during our conversation, which means, surprise, you get to learn some baby Polish too. This episode was a lot of fun to make, and I hope you enjoy. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. Thank you so much, Arthur, for being on the show. So let's start off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself. So who are you? What do you do? And what's your language story?
Hi, my name is Arthur Chou. I'm the managing director at Academic Learning Company. I also manage 2 websites, sealofbiliteracy.org, also duallanguageschool.org. And my language story here is that many years ago, in the early 90s, I spent half a year traveling South America. I was in Guatemala, studied Spanish for a month there, stayed with a local family. Afterward, I just backpacked. I didn't have money. I just wanted to see the world. And that's the best time of my life, learning the language, see the different people. And that became my passion.
So what languages do you speak? You said Spanish, obviously English.
So I grew up with three different languages because the way I grew up in Taiwan, my family are from Canton, so I speak Cantonese at home. At school, we speak Mandarin. On the street, we speak Taiwanese. So that's my first three languages. And when in junior high, you have to study English, that like every kid's. In college, I was a math major, so we have to study German. I studied German in college, and then, of course, Spanish.
Do you have a favorite language?
I love Spanish. It's such a romantic, powerful language.
Yeah, I met my husband through Spanish, so I agree. I have a soft spot for it as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this episode, as you know, is all about the Seal of Biliteracy, which you know a lot about. So help us understand, what is the Seal of Biliteracy and why is it important?
So the Seal of Biliteracy is a recognition, and this is the important part, from the government about a student's bilingual skill set, that when you graduate from high school, you can demonstrate, can speak, read, write, listen in two different languages, and the state will give you a recognition, a seal on your diploma.
What's the origin story? Like, how did the Seal of Biliteracy come about? When was that?
So the story started in the 90s. So California has a strange law that people can vote to establish a legislation. This is a proposition called ONS Proposition 227, which abolishes bilingual education. We formed this group. The goal here is that in order to repeal the 227, we have to get people in California vote for the new proposition to overturn the 227. So to get people to vote, that is hard, right? So we started looking for how can we make that happen. So in 2003, there is a school district near LA called Glendale Unified School District. If that then sounds familiar, that's where Kardashian family coming from.
Oh, no way.
Exactly. There's a huge Armenian population in Glendale. So the school district started celebrate this called Bilingual Competency Award. So Californians together look into this, say this might be something we can use to celebrate the students' bilingual ability. And 2010, we established the website, which I manage right now. It's called sealofbiliteracy.org. And at the beginning, our goals are very simple. We want to establish the Seal of Biliteracy in California only because we are thinking about how we overturn 227. So after we passed the Seal of Biliteracy law in California, somewhat I've become the default person to help other states to establish the Seal of Biliteracy. It starts to travel state by state, help them to establish the local legislation. And that became the story for the Seal of Biliteracy.
So the Seal of Biliteracy got its start in California, but it grew to be nationwide. Just goes to show you that if you push for something that you believe in, you never know what's possible. Okay, back to Arthur, who has a big point to drive home here. He wants to share his vision for the Seal of Biliteracy because a lot of people, even me before recording this episode with Arthur, think of the Seal of Biliteracy as a test, an assessment. For him, it's much more than that.
I really want to mention one thing here. Seal of Biliteracy is a grassroots movement. This is education law passed state by state. So the people, the group in that state, the educator, the family, the business group, everyone in that state make that happen because they have to get the legislation vote on that.
So the Seal of Biliteracy is founded in the law. This is a seal that the state government would be giving to high school students upon graduation to show and highlight that they are proficient in 2 or more languages, right?
Yes.
So if I'm a school district that doesn't, let's say my state, you said we have 48 states?
48 states plus Washington, D.C. have established the Seal of Biliteracy right now, yes.
So if I'm one of those 48 states or D.C. and my school district isn't yet set up with the Seal of Biliteracy, how do I make that happen for my students? Walk us through step by step.
So I get the phone call all the time. So if you still have the Seal of Biliteracy, very often it's up to the school district or the school to adopt the Seal of Biliteracy, right? Because this is not a requirement; it's more option law. So it's important for you as an advocate person in your school district to help your student apply the Seal of Biliteracy from the state. If you have any questions, you can always call us. I work with every state government agency to help then to spread the word to get more school to apply for the Seal of Biliteracy. Even in my state, California, we have this for 10 years. I think we are not every state. We still have quite a few schools that do not have the Seal of Biliteracy yet. So really, it's a grassroots movement. Establishing the Seal of Biliteracy legislation is the first step. Second step is how do we get more school to participate, and also get more parents and teacher and student know about the Seal of Biliteracy.
Typically, in your experience, how does a school decide to get it set up with the Seal of Biliteracy? Is it through the students asking for it, the parents asking for it, or is it the school district who learns about it and wants to do it?
It can be any way. Generally speaking, district does have a person who will lead the discussion, and they will work the school to find out potential students who might be interested to apply the Seal of Biliteracy. But very often we got a call from our parents want to have the Seal of Biliteracy. One thing happening right now here, the 5 states actually award the college credit for the students who get the Seal of Biliteracy. The state of Illinois, Minnesota, Maine, Hawaii, and Missouri actually give out college credit in their public university. They do award college credit to the student with the Seal of Biliteracy. I got a phone call from Howard University, a traditional Black university, and they are doing the same thing. They will recognize the Seal of Biliteracy, give you college credit. So this is important to know that parents know about that part. So believe it or not, we got more phone calls from parents nowadays than from the school district.
Wow. So am I correct in understanding that it's kind of like the AP exam where if you pass that you might not have to take classes at the college level, you get credit for them?
So every state is different, depends on the state law. Generally speaking, this assessment, the key thing here is to prove the proficiency, right? And the way you prove proficiency can be many multiple ways. Assessment is definitely one of the easiest way to do that. The many states do a portfolio. I will share one thing with you. We did a National Seal of Biliteracy report. The report 2 years ago, we have 119 language. And there's only like 6-7 languages you have assessment, right? There's 100-some languages you don't have assessment. So believe it or not, very often the assessment is not necessarily done the traditional commercial assessment, not AP. AP only have very limited language. Even the Common Apple test, Stanford test, the language is still limited, right? So there are a lot more language need to be assessed. And the way they assess are differently. It doesn't have to be that typical test you take. The portfolio approach is one way. And many states, for example, the state of Missouri, not only you need to prove that you have the language proficiency, they have the social culture competence part, which means you have to do some volunteer works, demonstrate your language ability. So I just interviewed the Seal of Biliteracy program in Kansas City School District in Missouri. And the school only had program for 2 years. Because that social culture competence requirement, they actually go to volunteer in local school, talk about bilingualism. They actually produce a Spanish movie, won the International Film Festival. So these are the things you can do, really demonstrate the language skill set.
I just love this. It's so project-based and community-driven. Unfortunately, we didn't have this option back when I was in high school. I graduated high school in Pennsylvania over a decade ago now, and I have no recollection of this or the seal at all. And in researching for this episode, I realized why. The Seal of Biliteracy just got passed into state legislation in 2022. So the ink is still fresh in Pennsylvania.
Now let's talk money, Arthur. So if I'm a school district, how much does it cost? Are there grants and funds I could apply to help subsidize?
So it really depends on the school district, the state, and if you have English learners, you can definitely use Title III. Many states have money for world language. They can use that. And then some schools use Title I funding. During the last legislation work, they actually, in the House bill, they actually point out that the school can use ESSER money for the Seal of Biliteracy test.
Yeah, we actually had Stephanie Bjork do a whole episode with us on how to get funding, and ESSER was the main pocket of money that we talked about.
We've linked that episode for you in the description down below.
I do want to talk about the format of the assessment for the Seal of Biliteracy. So if I'm a teacher helping my students prepare for the test, what should I know about the test to help them best prepare?
Depends on every state. Some states require intermediate and high. Mostly on intermediate and for the actual skill set, but on the intermediate high, it's a little bit more higher. Some say even have advanced low as a requirement to get a Seal of Biliteracy of that. So we know that if you only study high school Spanish for 3 years, you might not get there, especially on the writing part. Writing can be very challenging, right? So if your teacher really focus on that, the reading and writing part, but then again, as I say, Seal of Biliteracy is not just about assessment. There are many other ways you can help your student receive the Seal of Biliteracy by using portfolio approach. Another thing we kind of find out, believe it or not, very often some students did not pass the Seal of Biliteracy because of English assessment. They forgot this the English part. Biliteracy means you have two language. You have demonstrated your English ability too. So sometimes we got a phone call like this, hey, my kids didn't take that test because they don't think that's important, the English test, and they missed that test. That's the reason they didn't get a Seal of Biliteracy. What can they do? Unfortunately, we are not the state. We didn't write the law either. But if you don't pass the English assessment, then you might not get the Seal of Biliteracy.
It seems obvious, but everything is obvious in hindsight.
Exactly.
Do you know across the US typically what languages are eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy?
Any human languages are eligible, and that's a keyword. Human language. So unfortunately, computer language doesn't count.
Okay.
I can use some number here.
No
Python,
MATLAB.
Pascal doesn't count. C++ doesn't count. I was a math major, so I know that. But the language counts with any human language, including Latin, including American Sign Language. And one of the key things we really want to promote is the Native American languages. We really love to see more Native American languages offer the Seal of Biliteracy. If you go to our website, sealofbiliteracy.org, we have published 2 reports so far. I can share some data with you on the 2020 National Seal of Biliteracy Report. 108, 199 students received the Seal of Biliteracy from 31 states.
Wow.
Representing 119 world languages.
To say that again, over 108,000 students from 31 US states have received the seal in 119 different languages, all since 2008.
So it's not about your typical world language. It's about, this actually represents America. We are an immigrant country, right? These 119 languages represent the 119 countries who immigrated the student to the United States. This represents the United States.
Who's typically doing the assessing? Are these native speakers? How are they chosen?
Generally speaking, it depends on the company who do the assessment, right? Really, the testing assessment company can answer the question better than I do. But generally speaking, there's a native speaker assess on that.
And Arthur, what do you tell students who are asking you, like, why should I get it? What is it going to do for me? What do you usually tell them?
Okay, that can be so many things. I can share 2, 3 stories in the past, okay? One of the most common phone calls we got nowadays are, surprisingly, the students senior in college who supposed to get the seal 4 years ago, but they will call and say, hey, I got the Seal of Biliteracy 4 years ago, but I'm applying for the medical school. I'm applying to law school. I want to show my record. I have the Seal of Biliteracy. Can you help me to find it? The truth here is that many graduate advanced degree, the law school, the medical school, they are recruiting bilingual students. They know the community need a bilingual workforce, right? Mm-hmm. So your bilingual skill set will help you, not just we talked about college credit earlier, really help your career in the future. Mm-hmm. Another thing I really want to encourage, and this is a really critical part, heritage speaker students, keep your heritage languages. I'm Chinese, I'm from Taiwan originally. Many of my friends' kids don't want to learn Chinese. They thought, that's my parents' language. I don't want to learn that. But the reality here, that's your superpower. You can speak the language most other people can, right? Cherish that, leverage that, and make it become your best weapon. Another thing I want to share with you is about dual language school movement. This is one thing we find out. We really are encouraging more schools to start the dual language program. Now, the goal here is that not only your language is strong enough, you study math, science, social study in second language. Can be Spanish, can be Chinese. And one thing we start seeing students, when they went to the dual language program, they're applying college in Europe because the language is so strong, the math skill, they can solve math in Spanish. And one thing about university in Spain or in Europe, they're free. You can save lots of money from your student debt, right? You can play, if your language are good enough, if you can solve your math in Spanish or German or French or Chinese, Japanese, you can go to those colleges for free.
I think that might have been the biggest life hack we've ever heard on this podcast.
This is especially important for a lot of students from inner city school, right? There's hope. Believe that language is your key to your new future. You're right. And you might think about, oh, I was stuck in my neighborhood all my life. No, learn a language, go to a language program, learn your math in different language. You can apply college to see the world different way. It'll change your life.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure you know this, there's a whole bunch of research into what's called linguistic relativity, right?
Yes.
Which is that the languages you know or study can impact the way that you see the world. And
Yes.
there's a lot of evidence that this happens in subtle ways, right? It doesn't mean that if you speak one language, you can't understand the world in one way, but it does give you a different lens because the language chops up reality into different nouns and different groups.
There's so many research talk about this. We really want to encourage more people to learn different languages.
Not every learner, especially heritage language learners, speak a standard variety of the target language. So whenever students are preparing for the SEAL, whether it's a portfolio or a test, how does the state usually evaluate these non-standard dialects?
So I give a very good example in New Mexico. And New Mexico, they use a portfolio approach a lot. Mm-hmm. And assessment is definitely one option, but they use a portfolio approach that basically students prepare the portfolio, demonstrate their ability in speaking, reading, and writing, and the listening. And the school district will invite local business like banker, bakery people, business owner, come here to evaluate the students' bilingual ability. And I have saw that they actually hire those kids for the summer job right away. So that's a good way to assess this, right? I mean, I understand there's a certain expectation, you need to be certain standard, but actually, I personally believe Spanish can be any other form. Doesn't matter where you're from, all Spanish are valid. We encourage diversity of Spanish, right? This is not just a European Spanish or your dialect is not proper. This is your language. This is your country heritage. Nobody can tell you are not good enough. We are as good as everyone else.
After having listened to this episode, what is one thing that you hope that school districts remember about this movement and about the Seal of Biliteracy?
The Seal of Biliteracy is not assessment. It's about celebration.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Arthur. It was a joy to have you on the show, and stay safe and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's the perspective of the Seal of Biliteracy from one of its founding fathers, Arthur Chou. Now let's talk to someone who recently graduated from high school, having earned her Seal of Biliteracy. Here's my conversation with Nicole Rybak.
I'm a very language-oriented person. Witam wszystkich, mam na imię Nicole Rybak i się bardzo cieszę, że mogę dzisiaj się podzielić z wami informacjami na temat Seal of Biliteracy. I grew up speaking Polish, learned English and Polish simultaneously as a child because my parents are Polish, and then I picked up Spanish when I was about 8 years old, and French I picked up, I think, in high school, and have just been continuing with it ever since.
Thanks for giving us the background to your language story. Now, I'd love to know a little bit more about the Seal of Biliteracy. So can you tell our listeners, what was your experience with the Seal of Biliteracy? Like, I want to know everything. Like, when did you find out it was a thing? How did you know it was something you wanted to do? What was it like to get it? Have you leveraged it in any way with your professional career, academic career? Yeah, tell us everything.
Okay, yeah. So I first found out that the Seal of Biliteracy was a thing my senior year of high school, because that was the first year that my school decided to do Seal of Biliteracy. So that's how I found out. I think I found out through my language classes, which is it's an interesting thing that I don't remember it like being very marketed towards the rest of the high school population. And we were a very diverse high school in like a suburb of Illinois, like a suburb of Chicago. So like incredibly diverse. There's definitely a ton of like heritage speakers, native speakers, and yet it was still like marketed towards language learners, learning Spanish for the first time, learning French for the first time. So I took it my senior year. I took 2 my senior year. So I started off with the Polish one, and then I took the French one. So the Spanish one I didn't actually take, because I took the AP exam in Spanish and I got a 5. And for some reason, I didn't know that it like transferred over, like, but my school was like, oh, since you got a 5, like you're getting it anyway. I'm like, cool, I'm not gonna complain. So I took the Polish one. I do remember, again, finding out about the Polish one through research after finding out about the exam in language classes, because the languages that were offered in my high school were French, German, and Spanish. And so in those classes, people were talking about like, do the Seal of Biliteracy, and other languages were not mentioned that were not offered. And then I like asked around, I was like, is Polish, can I take it? I got the response that like, yeah, sure, we can arrange it. And really the reason why I decided to take the Polish one was because I kind of wanted something more like official to show for it. Like, yes, I can speak Polish, but like, let's get it certified, I guess. So I took the Polish exam first. I do remember being very surprised by the questions. There were 3 essays. And I remember writing those 3 essays, or like getting those essay questions and being like I don't know if I have the vocabulary for this. Like, I remember writing about the danger of water sports, and I was like, I can't tell you things about water sports in Polish. Like, this is not, like, I very much know how to communicate. I know a lot of Polish, but did I learn about water sports at home? No. Did I learn about water sports in Polish school? No, I didn't. And I'm like, how do I do this? And so I just remember being like super surprised by the essay questions. And then I sat down to take the French one, and I was like coming in like super prepared for something incredibly hard. And then I got the essay questions, and I was like, this is fine. Like, this is, for some reason, I also remember having the feeling that the French was easier than the Polish. Yeah, so that was my experience.
What have you been able to leverage that Seal of Biliteracy for? So like, have you put it on your resume, your CV? Do you think it had an impact in getting into the linguistics programs? Tell me a little bit about what you think you got from it.
I'm actually unsure if I have it on my resume. I think I might, but I definitely have it on my LinkedIn for sure. Initially, when I got it, I was very much like one track minded, like, oh, will this help me in college? And so I took it, and I was like, oh, I can definitely put it in like somewhere. And I do remember that after the Seal of Biliteracy, during our like senior awards ceremony, that's when like medals were given out for the Seal of Biliteracy. There were like a ton of people who like took the Spanish exam and like got Seal of Biliteracy. There were a little bit less in French, but it was still like, I think we only had like 1 French class at the time, like an AP. And I think like about like maybe 3/4 of people like passed and like got the Seal of Biliteracy. And then when it came to Polish, it was 2 people, and so many, and I know of so many people who took it, just because it is a very much, the town that I grew up in is very much like, I say half divided Hispanic, Latino, and Polish. And so many people took them, and they're like, oh, this kid got it, congratulations, and Nicole Rybak. And I'm like, just 2.
It was the water sports question.
It was the water sports question, apparently. I mean, I guess I wrote something correctly. But kind of returning to your question, for sure, coming into college, if somebody is proficient in a language, takes the Seal of Biliteracy, gets it, you're proficient in this language officially, I can't see how that wouldn't be a benefit.
Well, as we wrap up, can you teach me how to say thank you for being, maybe that's too long. Maybe like just thanks and bye. This is probably what I can handle in Polish.
Yes. So thanks is dziękuję.
Dziękuję?
Yes. And then bye is do widzenia.
Do widzenia.
Yes.
Cool. So it's so similar. So my dad's side is Croatian and Slovak. And so I've been using Mango to reconnect with my Croatian roots. And I'm pretty sure do widzenia is goodbye in Croatian as well. And I know that a lot of those languages in that area are very similar.
Yeah.
Is hello something like dobar dan, dobry den?
Dzień dobry, which is like basically reversed, because like dobry den is like good day. It's dzień dobry. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for being on the show, and I hope you stay healthy, stay happy, and keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I had such a fun time.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was my conversation with one of the SEAL's founding fathers, Arthur Chou, and a high school SEAL earner, Nicole Rybak, now of Georgetown University. This episode was just absolutely jam-packed with really helpful information about what the SEAL is, why it matters, and how to implement it. So to help y'all out, me and my team here at Mango put together a really nice, tidy summary of the 8 things that you should know about the Seal of Biliteracy. You can download it for free by clicking the link in the description. If your school doesn't yet offer the Seal, then visit the sealofbiliteracy.org website. If you'd like to connect with Arthur, you can reach him at info@sealofbiliteracy.org. And if you want to connect with Nicole, you can reach out to her on LinkedIn by her name, Nicole Rybak. That's Rybak. Well, that is all for today's episode. Stay tuned for our next episode of Teaching Languages Today. If you want to be the first to know when that episode goes live, then make sure you follow the show. If you like today's show, I invite you to give us a follow, give us a like, leave us a review. And if you have some teaching friends who you think would benefit from this podcast, then feel free to share with them as well. The more, the merrier. Well, from me and the Mango Languages family, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Ciao! This episode was hosted, produced, and edited by me, Dr. Emily Sabo. Our production manager is Dr. Erica Catregli. And our audience was... Oh, wait, that's you. Thank you so much.